So now I'm going to open the floor to questions. We had a question from Carla that she asked, are there any steps we can take to genuinely educate the men in our families or children growing up on violence against women and women's rights in such a male-dominated culture? Payzee, you answered this already, but I don't know if you want to elaborate. And so Carla also said that in the UK you have these things like sex education in schools, but this is still happening in our communities, and we're still seeing honor killings happening to this day.
I think the only thing I'll add is we can have all the education and the laws in place, but if within households, within families, the right conversations aren't being had, and boys and men cannot see examples, if they see their fathers, their brothers, their uncles, their community members all disrespecting women, being violent towards women, and not giving any space for women to express themselves, they're not going to care about the education in the schools and universities and all the books they read, everything they listen to. They're going to be an example of their environment. So I think we can't have one without the other. We need to have both for this to be successful. Boys need to be, they need to have examples at home within their family members, and they need to be shown that women are to be respected the same way. We're human. We're not asking for anything that is out of this world. We're asking to be treated as human beings and fairly. And I think this is an incredibly important thing to teach boys and men from a really, really young age. And I think this is often one of the things that's lacking. I mean, for example, I see men in the community I come from. Some of them are born here, some of them are raised here, but yet because of what they see very close to them, they cannot see this picture of women and men are equal, no matter what they see on TV or what is communicated to them. Although patriarchy still exists in this country, it's the conversations that need to happen at home. And they need to be taught so many things. For me, the sex education is so important. Respect, boundaries, intimacy, all of those things are just so, so vital.
Completely agree, definitely. Suna, Evin, do you have any comments?
Evin, do you want to say something?
Maybe you can go first.
Definitely, it's very important, and also family. All families should think about their future, and also the raising the boys and the girls in the same manner is very important, because sometimes even we are very educated women can tell that their girls, oh, why you act like a boy? It is, but there is no such a action is different to be a boy or girl. We all live, we all eat, we all work, we all educate. So what is the difference? Except our being having different organs on our body. So maybe man can get like a 10 pounds or 10 kilos heavier, carry 10 kilos heavier than us. But that is, we all have same brain. We all have same responsibilities for the future too. And then as a woman, we should our responsibilities to raise our children and for the equality, for freedom, and also we all live our life in freedom too. Because as a mothers, usually I work for harmful practice and domestic abuse officer, and I see that most of my clients or family members, when they became mother, they just forget themselves. They just became a mother, but before becoming a mother, they are a woman. They're a person. They should credit themselves. They should think about themselves. Because if you forget yourself, nobody cares about you, even your children.
Thank you. Anyone else, if you want to say anything, please feel free to either comment or speak out loud. You can turn on your video as well if you have any comments or questions. Yes.
I have a question because of this FGM. I never heard this before in Kurdistan. Yeah, is this a type of group, or is this a part of an area, or is this a part of a religion who does it, or is this just in Iran? I want to ask especially Payez this question. If she can answer, please.
Hi, yes, of course. Thank you for your question. Really important question, actually. I think one of the first things that I want to say is FGM is not from any religion. It's not mandatory in any religion. It's often associated to, for example, Islam, but this is simply a harmful tradition that has come. Actually, FGM comes from Britain many, many years ago. It was practiced here, but it's heavily tied to Muslim communities. Really, the thing to understand about it, it's very common in any place that you find conservative communities that want to control the sexual liberation of a woman. And that's the sole purpose it's done. It's so that women's bodies are controlled. So it's part of the wider conversation of patriarchy. And so it's not just common in Kurdistan, it's common in South Asia, in many countries across Africa, in many, many parts of the world, you know, even in Eastern European, but it's really done just to control women. It's another form of making sure that women don't have freedom over their own bodies.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. And I think that ties into another question by Roushin, who says, do you think religion plays a big role in gender abuse? And I think you kind of answered that already.
I can add something about this, Sas.
Yeah.
So I just delivered today a training to do social work about the faith-based abuse. And I can definitely say that most of the religions, I can say like all of the religions are patriarchal. And then because of this, they are in favor of men. And then, of course, most of them are saying that the woman has to obey to men. For example, in Japan, they believe in Shantu, and in their religion, the father of the household is the god of the house. As a woman, as a wife, how can you say no to your god and even you living with him? And also, for example, in all religion, when women are in their period, when they're having menstruation, because every woman has to bleed certain of the month of the time, and then they were called unclean. And then even in Kurdish, we say a woman says that when they are seeing the menstruation, they said I'm dirty. If a woman feels that, says I am dirty, and then she feels that she's dirty, and then and her mentality, her freedom, her attitude will change towards being dirty, because she cannot allow to to touch the holy book. She cannot allow to go to the holy places. She cannot even fast, and even she cannot have sex with her husband too, because she's dirty. And then she has the sex with the man, with the husband, she make him dirty too. So if they die when they dirty, they will go to the hell. So that is this big responsibility, this being to put in on woman. So as a woman, I think we all have discussed about the abusive discourse, abusive ideology within the religions too.
Can I just add one thing to that, Suna? That was I agree with everything you're saying. Just one other thing I will add is that I think religion, as much as it is pretty much set on patriarchal foundations, it can never ever be an excuse for why women have to suffer. And I think this sometimes, unfortunately, I have come across many women and gals who will say, but I'm required to do this for my husband, but I'm required to behave like this and to do this. And it's never the case. If anything puts you under any form of abuse, whether it's mental or psychological or physical or sexual, it cannot be excused by religion.
Thank you, Payzee. Just
a comment.
Yeah.
I think Julia asked about the FGM. The FGM has been a practice dated back 3,000 years ago in Egypt by pharaohs. So it's mainly being practiced in Africa, India, Indonesia, certain part of the world. But if you're talking about Kurdistan, it's rarely practiced in Rojava, Turkey, Iran, not much, but Kurdistan, Iraq. So Bakur is the main hotspot. That's why all the eyes in social services are open on those particular Kurdish people coming from those areas. So there is a lot of educations happening in the schools in terms of the FGMs. They have particular course. They're encouraging all the young girls to attend it, whether they have the permission from the parents or not. That's something to add.
And I also, one of my friends, Wakala, just said, women in Kurdistan who have experienced FGM have now been compensated with a salary. So this is a step towards, denormalizing it. So it's something.
If anyone interested about the different type of FGMs being practiced on women, there is a documentary being produced by BBC for 20 minutes. So you can just Google it on YouTube and you can find more information.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think just to feedback on the FGM Roushin just commented on, me and my sisters were actually, we underwent this in Iran whilst we were growing up there. And I think actually having worked in this sector, we are being exposed to figures even within Eastern European countries. I think although we know FGM to be practiced in the communities you mentioned, it is actually very, very common, and it's a very scary thing to acknowledge, but it's happening. Even during lockdown, there was cases happening in the UK because I guess perpetrators felt that because everything was closed and they didn't have as much eyes on them, they were able to carry out the abuse even more. So I think it's good to bear in mind this is happening in many, many places around the world. And it's one of the biggest ways to control women and their onus over their own bodies.
What we need to make aware of, we still have some certain communities in the UK, they export a doctor or a nurse from abroad on a visa visit to practice FGM on their young children, young daughters. It's still happening in the UK, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the case is still happening in UK, but unfortunately, there's just one case happened to take into the court, and also within the case, they just converted the mother to be the perpetrator, and we all know that if you perform the FGM to the child, you need more than one person to do it. So where is the other people? Again, the other perpetrators just run away. They clear their hand, and then woman became the victim as well. When she's the perpetrator, but she also victim of by her family too.
Mm-hmm. Such an important point you just made, Suna. I just want to say one thing to add to that. When it comes to a lot of the types of abuses and gender violence that we mentioned tonight, this is never a single perpetrator. This is always a multi-complex, multi-layer perpetrator. And although one person may be caught and one person will be held responsible, there are so many people who are turning a blind eye and who are looking the other way. And I think it's really time for us to start having these conversations in our communities, because these things don't just happen overnight with one person being involved. Everybody hears about it. And I think so many communities are very close-knit. we need to start holding everyone accountable and stop thinking, well, it doesn't affect me personally and my sister or my family or my wife. It actually does, because these are the things that women around you are witnessing, and it adds to their mental trauma and to fear and, you know, to all these things that are affecting women's mental states.
And also, we are not living alone. We are not living our own bubble. Maybe as a family, we can raise our children in a very good way, in a way we want it. But our children goes to school. Our children have the friends with other people. Our children also affect others too. Like when they affected, but they also affect others too. So if we cannot close our eyes to our communities, to other people. So if we want to be some change be made, we need to be collaboratively work against all the abuse, against all the inequality and then violence against women.
Definitely. Miriam has raised her hand for a while now. Would you like to speak? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. There you go.
Okay, so thank you to all the speakers. I think it's such an important event, and like Saz said, like hearing Banaz's story is very tragic, and it upsets me as well. So seeing Payzee talk about it with such grace is really inspiring, and seeing the work that you're doing is also very inspiring, Payzee. So thank you. And I can relate to you when you said that as girls we were always told to be good girls. Because I think growing up that really affected my confidence, and even professionally I think it took many years to try and become a confident person. And I feel like it's not just men, and I think our speakers have touched on it. I think women have a role to play as well in trying to build up the role of women's place in society, in the communities, and to also try and talk back against the injustices that are happening. And I noticed that about 10 to 15% of the participants on this talk are men. The rest are all women. So although I think it's important for women to talk to each other about this issue, I think I'm not sure if we're reaching the bigger audience, and maybe for future events, because I think we should have more of these events to talk about it more. And because, like all the speakers said, it's not a widely spoken topic, and it's very important that it does become a commonplace to talk about such things. So maybe we can talk about men and their perspectives, or maybe get a man to speak about it as well, because it is hard, I think, for men to talk about these things, because they may feel like they come from a place of privilege, and when you're in that sort of position, I think it's difficult to make a comment about it, or maybe find a Kurdish man or a Middle Eastern man who is genuinely interested about women experiencing oppression. So yes, or like what else could we do to try and get more men to be part of such conversations?
I think the first steps just to let the wife comes and attend these types of webinars, because personally I posted this webinar among many different Kurdish, non-Kurdish communities, and I believe not many attending this webinar today. I think it's a fear, it's coming from the fear of the husband not being listened what they're listening to. So it's a big task.
Can I just jump in? Hi, I'm Mevan. I really appreciate the chat. I just thought it might be helpful at this point to throw in, there's several studies done of when men get interested in female issues and female rights. And the biggest thing that changes a man's mind about the rights of women is having a daughter. That is the first thing that will change a man's mind. And that's true for CEOs in tech. We know that as soon as a man who's a CEO of a startup has a woman as a daughter, then all of a sudden he starts thinking about what are the roles that I can make for women in my company and progression in that. So I think the difficulty is that in our society, having a daughter isn't seen as how can I open doors for her. It's seen as she's a liability and she's going to dishonor me. And that's a very profound cultural shift in the thinking in the specific Kurdish culture that needs to shift and change. And so I start to think about, well, where are these messages coming from? And I look at Kurdish TV, and Kurdish TV is filled with men, and there are very few women. And the Kurdish women who do speak talk about dresses and makeup, and they're very vapid, and they're really terrible, frankly. I know that it's great that it's a step forward, but they're not talking about really necessarily big issues. So we have quite a big cultural gap to fill in terms of how do we change daughters from being liabilities to being something to celebrate.
Mm.
Completely. Does anyone have any comments to add? No, I completely agree with you. I've seen the Kurdish shows, and the stuff that the women talk about is just awful.
But it's also all very tactical. We're only certain types of women are given airtime because they want to reiterate the messaging that these are Kurdish women, when actually we know there are incredible, amazing Kurdish women doing incredible things across the world. And it's so important for young girls to see those women, but they're not given airtime. And actually, even if they are, by the off chance, when they are, they face a lot of backlash and a lot of abuse. And who does that abuse come from? It's again from men. So it's another form of violence that we're facing there. So I think really, you know, what Mevan was talking about in terms of what changes a man's mind on these issues. We need men to not have to wait until they have daughters to actually care about these issues, because you are in fact here because a woman gave birth to you. And so, you know, any man who's here tonight, or any one of us who are having conversations with men, we need to somehow engage them. And you know, I would urge you to be interested in these conversations. I mean, why would you not be interested in these conversations? There is so much evidence to show you what women are going through on a daily basis, the level of abuse that we're facing, even just walking down the street. I mean, you think, you know, I grew up in Iran, and I had this crazy idea that going to the UK, I will be free and I will walk down the street and, you know, live my wildest fantasies. I walk down the street so often and get harassed by men. This is, again, a form of abuse. We literally face abuse on so many levels. And so we need men to care about these issues. You know, it's so frustrating because you often ask yourself, why do you not care? Why don't you care?
Completely. Do any of the men have anything to say or contribute? If any of you want to say anything, now would be the best time. No?
If the men don't want to speak, can I speak?
Yeah, of course.
Because all the men are silent, but in the room I have my husband who's listening very carefully. And yeah, and actually I would like to say that all the speakers have spoken very well. But we are talking about FGM and all the other forms of violence. But it starts at home, and it is gaslighting, which basically starts the emotional violence. So if I would request Suna to please explain what is gaslighting, that would be great.
Yeah, I think you can also say something about it, but I can say something. So the gaslighting is kind of like a mental manipulation towards the woman. For example, a man can say, the husband say to his wife that, can you bring me a cup of tea? And then when the woman brings the tea, and then he can say that, oh, why you bring the tea for me? I ask for coffee. So like a changing, starting to kind of like making her that she's something have doubted herself. Yeah. For example, and he just turned off the light, and then when the woman turned off the light as well, and then again he says that, why you turn off the light? It was like this. So again, doubting herself. And also we often see that when with the gathering, that the different people, different family households come together, and then when the woman says something, the husband will say that, oh, shut up. It is not good to say in front of the others. You speak nonsense. It is not important. Just again, and then working on her confidence to make her that she dived her everything. And then, for example, I got a client, and she had a baby in the hospital. And then before the delivery, she wore a hospital gown. And then she asked her husband that, oh, this gown is smelly. Can I change this? And the husband said, no, there's no smell on it. After the delivery, when they go to the home, and then husband start to say that, oh, I smell something on you. I think it's because of the gown. And then for 10 years, next 10 years, his husband tells the wife that, oh, you're smelly because I still feel this smell of the gown from you. And then after 10 years, this woman just lost all her confidence. She felt that she's smelly all the time. She stopped taking the public transport. Wherever she go, she just walk, because wherever she applied for a job, and in the job interview, her first sentence is, oh, sorry about that, if I'm being a bit smelly. And then of course, the other they don't give her any chance to work in this organization. And then when she came to our organization, when I see her first, and her first sentence was, sorry if I'm smelly, you can just sit a bit far away from me. The first thing I done it, I just close to her, hug her, and I said that you don't smell. You just had your shower, your face is clean, your body is clean. So why this word come from? And then she started to say her story, and then I told her that you are not smelly at all. It is the smell comes from your mind, because it is kind of like infected in your mind by the husband, by gaslighting. So after 2 weeks, she started to take public transport. She attended our classes in Asian Women Research Center, and then after 3 months, she left the husband. So how's the effect of the gaslighting in women's life? So she lost her 10 years by just being said that you are smelly. It is not any physical violence. It is not any financial violence. It is just one word.
It's a form of emotional abuse. Yeah. Before I forget, there was a question for Payzee. They said, after your sister's heartbreaking story, it was said that changes have been made within the public services in terms of handling honor-based violence. Do you feel as if there's been a change, and what more could they do to improve how they help victims?
I don't think enough change has been done since my sister's case. Many of the recommendations that were made after my sister's trial were not followed up. To this day, many police forces are still not undergoing mandatory training on these topics. And if we look at it, even within the latest progress in government with regards to the domestic abuse bill, migrant women are amongst the biggest sufferers of what is coming from that bill, because they're not getting access to public funds, and who are experiencing these abuses. Migrant women are actually at the forefront of these statistics. So I don't think enough has changed. In fact, there's a lot of othering on these issues, and there's often misconceptions and stereotypes, and we've touched on some of them tonight, but it's as though if a woman presents with any of these issues, it's because of her religion, it's because of her culture, and so she's not taken seriously. And in fact, it's what happened in my sister's case, because they didn't understand, even though she was speaking very clearly and communicating more than 5 times to different police officers, this is what she was experiencing. They didn't understand it, because all they could think was, oh, she's just a Muslim woman who's saying that her family's, you know, her family's abusing her. So I don't think enough has changed, because in one way we're being othered into this box of other communities, and in another way these women don't have access to public funds and to the services that they should have.
And I'm sure ICRO are doing a lot to help women.
And also, I'd like to add something about the accessing to public resources, because if you are refugee, if you are asylum seeker, if you are overstayer, if you are having here on a working visa, you are not entitled to any resource to public funds. And then, if you get abused, or if you are having like a in terms of the honor-based abuse, so no, most of the organization just declare their hands and then give the their responsibility on the voluntary organization. And then as a women organization, we all work very hard to find a way to help her, to help this woman to survive. So and also there's a bill in the UK Parliament about the, it's called DA bill from the Istanbul Convention. So again, they exclude the no recourse to public funds women. So there is no refuge option for these women. There is no legal aid for these women. There is no housing option for these women. These women just left alone. So if you are on spouse visa in this country, you have to be in the hand of your husband till you get your 5 years for your indefinite remain visa status. Otherwise, the state says that, oh, you are not my responsibility. You need to survive. And also, I just want to add that although we are studying about the gendering issues, the violence against women, but we also know that our responsibilities in the patriarchal work too, because we are also kind of like even we are the victim, but sometimes we can be perpetrated too. The mother, sometimes not working, not fighting against the violence, or sometimes like being mother-in-law against our daughter-in-laws. So we need to sometimes even being a CEO or manager, and also abusing our workers too. So we need to start to criticize ourselves, but at the same time we also fight against all kind of violence against women.
Completely agree.
I have something to add. If we can share among all of us, there is a type of awareness is happening among the school, and we need to pass it to all communities that the government and the police, they're working on something called silver spoon. So if there is any girl, she is half suspicious of her parents or whatever relatives taking her abroad to practice FGM, is what she needs to do. She will have put a spoon, small spoon in her underwear, and this will be detected in the airport before she departs to whatever the destination, because it's what's been happening. There are certain countries that practice FGM, but the parents or the mother or the granny will take the girl to different country. From that country will travel to 2 or 3 destinations until they received it. They land in the country when they have to practice the FGM on their daughters.
And also the silver spoon can be used when the girl taken abroad to get forced marriage. So because the families takes their daughters, like even I had a client, she forced married at the age of 13 and abroad, because and after when she turned 18, they tried to bring the groom from the outside. So the spoon can be used for the forced marriages things too.
I think recently happening in December, it's about 2 weeks old. The police published in support of women and children something called Silence Solution System, when the child or woman will call 999 and unable to speak, there is a certain process to direct her call to the local police. So this is something I think we need to spread the word about it among the community as well.
Definitely. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? Any mails? Yes, Shkor. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi. Yeah, you can hear me. I just want to say it's very informative talk. Sorry, I arrived a bit late to the talk, but it's been a very informative talk, and I thank all the speakers for coming. Just a quick question, really. I'm totally in agreement with how sex should be taught at a young age and taught well, particularly towards young men. I just feel with the entertainment and music industry nowadays, in my opinion, I just find it that as the years go by, it's becoming more and more sexualized. Do you think that with that industry, it's causing a hindrance to teaching young men about the attitudes of sex and towards women? It was just something that I was thinking of during this talk. Whether the entertainment industry and whether the music industry is sort of like slowing down or sort of preventing young men being taught so properly about sex and how they should sort of their attitudes towards women. And it was just if any of the speakers had any thoughts or opinions on that.
Any thoughts? I think personally, abuse towards women has been around for like thousands, not I don't know how many, but like decades and decades, and way before the music industry even started. So I don't think that the music industry itself is like a cause of violence against women, particularly for migrant women. But it might have some small another effect.
I would say, sorry, Suna, do you want to go ahead?
No, you can.
Thank you. I would say when we're thinking about entertainment and pop culture, we can't be taking education, whether it's about sex, rights, or anything like that. We can't, although I understand it's influential, but I think we can't directly take teachings from pop culture because you'll have various different genres, for example, and so I'm sure you'll agree not every single genre will present us the same violent image when it comes to sex and girls and boys. So I think it's important that we recognize whatever those messages we're seeing, they cannot be our realities, because essentially it is a form of entertainment, although maybe somewhat influential. We have to recognize if we're being shown something violent or something wrong. For example, we see gun culture in a lot of music videos, but that can't excuse everyone buying a gun and start shooting each other. Again, I hear you and I take into account what you're saying, but I think we have to, for me, sometimes I find we blame certain things. We blame the entertainment industry, we blame religion, we blame this. We have to hold people accountable. If you inflict any type of abuse on a girl or a woman, it can't be because of the music video you watch. It's because you chose through your actions to put that woman or girl through the abuse that you are putting them through. And I think accountability is absolutely so important. We have to start taking it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was just more whether it was just causing a hindrance to sort of teaching young boys sort of attitudes towards sex, not sort of like, blaming it, but just whether it's sort of slowing down the process of teaching, just because of how readily available it is to youngsters nowadays. It's just more sort of causing hindrance rather than sort of sort of slowing it down.
And also we can see the kind of like a sexism or like any other things in even in our clans in English musics. So there's some lyrics they said that, oh, he fell in love with the young girl. She's not yet 14 yet. And then we all love these songs. We all listen, and then we all say sings without thinking about it, because it's come from our culture. It is come from our musical background. Belongs to our history. So, and most of the old clans or musics says about the young woman and the older man being in love. So how can, because the older man have the ability and power and the money to travel and then to buy something, but for young girl being on the just in the field or in the just being by the river, and then he's got the right to fall in love with this girl. So, but we don't even discuss about it. We don't even think about it. So because it is kind of like, and where it's come from, now we are having the campaign child marriage, against child marriages. So child marriages is not historic things, and this sexual violence is not recent things, it's historic things. It comes from the history, and then we all have to kind of like think. We need to change our view to look at our society, our culture, and when we listen any book, when we listen any music, when we read any book, so we need to rethink, reread the stories behind it. And I just want to ask a question to Evin. And does she think that is there any kind of like inequality being a woman prisoner or man prisoner from the Kurdish society or Kurdish political movement?
Sorry, Suna, I couldn't follow your question.
For example, I can say that, for example, your mother and Selahattin Demirtas were the co-chair of the party. Mm-hmm. But now we see that most of the campaign is relating to Selahattin Demirtas. Very few campaign specifically by women about your mother. So do you think it's inequality?
Of course, this is inequality, and this is also actually our fight or unsolved issue within our actually movements, because for male, poor struggle. Usually for male political prisoners, when the case about them, whole party actually working for them. But when the case about the women politician prisoners, they say, okay, this is issue of Kurdish women political movement. So this is not also equal mindset, and I don't like this mindset. So we have to solve this. I'm so often questioning this and discussing with the person from the movements, but yet it's still same, you know, better than me actually. On the other hand, I would like to say something for all this discussion. I grew up really in an equal family actually. My mother and father was so equal to me, to each other. So, but they were also both part of the political movement, which is leftist and Kurdish, pro-Kurdish parties. So I think the being part of the political parties is also so important for this gender-based issue, because I can see, I could witness during all these years how our society in Turkey, in Kurdish region, changed. Like 40 years ago, women couldn't even maybe go out alone. But now we have many Kurdish women politicians, mayors, member of parliaments, and we created lots of women NGOs and shuttles and for struggle with our issues. So I think this strong political movement also started to change the mindset of the society. Now men are more respectful against the women in our society, I think here. Of course, there is still long way we have to walk. But still, yes, I think feminist movements are so important, but also we have to work with the men. We have to change their mindset. We have to fight with in the political movements with them. So I think, yeah, sorry, because of my cat's face. Yeah, sorry, I think just like for now. Yeah, someone asked something, I think. Okay, yes, I will. So maybe we have to look more our also women politicians' experiences. That's why I try to publish my mother book in English also, because there is more than 15 Kurdish women politicians' experiences, how they fight within society and within the party also with these gender-based issues. So maybe, yeah, but I couldn't do it yet. I hope some days you can also read it in English.
Hopefully, definitely. Someone had a comment, had raised their hand from a mobile. I don't know if you want to say anything. Huawei P smartphone. If not, Evin, would you like to speak? Abrishami.
Yeah. Hi. So yeah, thank you to our speakers. I have two questions. My first question is for Evin, and it's about the struggle that Kurdish women activists and political prisoners face, and their lack of paying attention or having a lack of interest in their struggle. And yes, that's true. It's happening in Bakur, but I've seen that happening in other parts of Kurdistan, also in Rojhelat. We have many Kurdish, activists, even environmental activists or cultural activists or maybe political activists. And when they are in prison or they are getting prosecuted, there is very lack of interest and attention to their issues and struggle. So my question is, what can we do? How can we help to change that? How can we help to be the voice of these women and their struggles? And how can we bring it to the international attention? My second question is for Payzee and Suna, and it's regarding the women here in the UK, especially women from our communities, Kurdish communities, who at the moment, right now, they may listen to that program and they be struggling with abuse, with violent partners, with controlling family members. Because yes, you did point out to many issues, but what would be your advice for them if they are struggling, they don't know what is the best route to seek help or free themselves from these abusive relationships? Also, we know that especially in our tight-knit communities, when women are trapped in abusive relationship, it's very hard to ask for help. It's very hard to see the light at the end of tunnel, and the abuse changes the people's mentality as well and makes them feel like they're trapped forever. So what are the practical steps or very first steps you would recommend to people who are listening right now and need help? Thank you.
Shall I go first? So I'm questioning this each day, every day to me also. It's hard because it's also part of this patriarchal mindset of whole world, actually. Even, for instance, biggest human rights NGOs always focusing in Turkey on some few popular men prisoners, political prisoners. So this is so sad. I sometimes also directly ask them, wrote them, why you are doing this, because there is also lots of really strong and important women who are trying to change our society, and they're in prison also. Why you don't care about them? They usually don't answering or yeah, just some of them, after my tons of questioning, start to also writing in their report my mother name, but it wasn't question about my mother. I was really questioning about women political prisoners. So they thought, okay, they are done with this. First of all, we have to change these mindsets. I really don't know. We have to be really powerful as always. Maybe we have to be more active on social media, because men really using so strongly social media and media areas usually. So we have to start to questioning also in our maybe political movements. Yeah, sorry, I don't have real good answer for this question.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, can I just say something a second?
Yeah.
I feel like my comment writing it hasn't been taken what I mean. So like in society now, I feel like women are taking back their sexuality and, you know, and they're, you know, holding it for themselves, which they have every right to be doing so. But at the same time, women claiming back their sexuality has opened that up for men. And when they see that around, I think without that education behind them, they think that women are therefore they're taking. And this is why this sort of thing is so important. Because you look at current celebrities now, a lot of them don't wear very many clothes to grab attention. The music videos are more explicit. Like, we are a lot more open to those sorts of things. And without people holding people to account, that is where it's made more sexually available. You know, there's the big surge of OnlyFans now, where women are taking back their own sexualities and claiming their rights to their bodies and to put them out there when they want to. But in doing so, some men have taken that and hold that for themselves, if that makes sense. I feel like the comment writing it didn't come across as what I mean, but as we've become more open and it is more out there and men see more of women claiming back their own sexuality and their own bodies as they have every single right to be, it has made that element a bit readily available for them. And seeing that in society without having the conversations that are needed, it can be taken as, you know, women being available for men as and when they want. which is not the case. You know, women have every single right to be out there and to do whatever they want, whenever they want it, without men having that right over them. And this is where, like you were saying, we need the conversations to start, and for men to realize that women have rights, women can do what they want, and it shouldn't be down to the man to determine the result of women's actions, if that makes sense.
I think, is it okay if I just comment?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just thanks for explaining your point of view. I think there's quite a few things to touch on. I would say the first thing we have to tackle is this idea that if women dress a certain way, it opens up the doors for sexual violence, for rape and assault. This, for as long as history has been there, this has been one of the I want to say justifications for why women have had to suffer sexual violence. But whether a woman wants to wear a bra down the street or she wants to wear a burqa, whatever she wears will never ever justify why a man has been sexually violent towards her. And I think by sometimes us saying things like, well, if women are wearing less clothes, then it communicates to men that we are more sexually available. I think it's really harmful to acknowledge that, because it means we're reinforcing the idea that actually if a woman wears less clothing, it means she wants to have sex, when in fact, until a woman says I want to have sex, her clothes, her makeup, her shoes, nothing about her says I want to have sex until she says that, and she communicates that very clearly to a man. So I think, although I understand some of the points you made, I think this again goes to allowing this justification of, well, actually men are violent, sexually violent towards women because of the way women might be dressing or the ownership women are taking over their bodies. Our bodies were never men's to take back. They've always been our bodies. It's just that men have abused and come into our spaces to abuse us. And so I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. You know how, and I can say this from growing up, I was always told, don't wear tight clothing because you will get attention. So I was held responsible for somebody else's action. It was me who shouldn't dress a certain way so that men don't attack me, so that men don't look at me. And I think, again, we're blaming women, that if women do dress like this, maybe that's why men will harass them. Actually, no, the bigger picture is we have to focus on, this is what men shouldn't do. Regardless of what girls do, we have to focus their attention on what men are doing and their actions, not what women do to provoke them, because nothing that women do will ever provoke sexual violence. So I think we have to take the focus back to the actions of the perpetrators, because the people who are committing these acts are the men towards women. And we never ever, I think that's like a big part of the problems that we have to like unpack, is we have to shift the blame where it belongs, which is with the perpetrators.
I do completely agree. I was linking to the comment that was made earlier about like music videos and stuff, whether that's hindering it. It was just linking that, you know, as we're progressing more, it's, you know, the whole, like, women, you know, you take Cardi B, for example, that the latest music video is very explicit, but she can do what she wants.
Men have been making music videos about their bodies, their genitals, for as long as we can look back in music, and they've been talking about how many women they sleep with a day, how many women they get pregnant, what they do with women's bodies. And the one artist that makes a music video or a music song about her sexual preferences and her own body, then we suddenly think, oh, what if men commit more sexual acts towards women because of this one artist? What about all the other artists, men artists that we hear talking about sex and their body? Every single Kurdish song is about a woman's body and her breasts and what a man wants to do to her. But we're never holding men accountable for their actions. We're always looking to, what is she doing to actually provoke a man to do this to her?
And also one of the strong feminist slogan is, my body is my choice. So Also, our body is our first and only home, especially for women. So there is no safer place to be in herself in your own body. And also the abuse does just not comes from the man, also comes from the state too, towards our body. For example, most of the countries, most of the states still thinks that they control our pregnancy, being getting abortion or not, or and then some countries still have the kind of like a virginity test to give the families. So still we don't have any right for our body to, because our body is kind of like told that the honor of the culture, honor of the society, honor of the family. No, our body is just belong to us. Whatever I want it, I can do it because it belongs to me. I can wear, I cannot wear, or also I can get pregnant or not. It's my choices, not anyone else's. And also being attractive or not attractive, also not. I agree with Payzee and the other audience too. Not about opening the violence or sexually abused by the others. It is my choice. If the third party wants to be with me because I want it, it is just normal sex. But if I don't want it and then he wants it, it is abuse.
But this was linking to the music comment about it being a hindrance, and what I was trying to say, which I don't think has come across very well, is that as it's becoming more and more progressive and it's out there, I can see where, I can't remember who said it, where the person was coming from, that it can be a hindrance because women are putting themselves out there and saying, you know what, this is our bodies, we can do what we want with it. You know, that Cardi B song, I'm just using an example, caused, you know, a lot of people were like, wait, what? Like, she's singing about what? And she has every right to sing whatever the hell she wants to sing. But I can see where it might be cause a hindrance, because at the same time that women are taking their sexualities and saying, do you know what, this is me, this is how I'm going to be, you know, my body, my choice, like you said, how men can then use that. And I think with the openness that we are getting in our societies, we then need to back that up with the education for men, because we are a whole lot more open now with everything compared to what we were a few years ago. And I think some men still have it in their minds that if a woman is going to put themselves out there, that means that the woman is there for their taking. And that is what I mean, which I don't think has come across very well at all.
No, we do hear you. We absolutely do hear you. But I think if we really dig deep and pick this is all of our teachings, not just us as Kurdish women, but I think just generally speaking, we're always taught to think of, okay, what is the reason for this happening? Like, what could we almost blame? And I think this is like years and years of, you know, of kind of like deep-rooted education that we're receiving. We're thinking about hindrance and why this movement could hinder men's perspective of the way we're taking ownership. But actually, again, I think we have to focus the attention on this is only going to move us forward if men take up the responsibility to educate themselves. We always hear women need to do this and women need to be patient and women need to teach. I think we shouldn't have to be held responsible for teaching our perpetrators how to not abuse us. I think there's so much responsibility on women. It's and not just from the comments you said, but just generally speaking, there's so much responsibility. Women don't do this so that you don't get this type of act towards you. Women, educate them so that they don't act this way. It's, you know, we can't be held responsible for everything to do with these matters. I think men have to also take initiatives to learn, because women, we take steps every single day to be safe. I'm sure so many women in this chat today here can relate. We take active steps. How many of us think twice before leaving the house at 11 p.m? You know, we take so many steps to ensure our safety. And I think it's about time that men realize the need for them to start educating and, you know, being aware and actively engaging in these conversations. But we do hear you, and I think I'm just trying to kind of give you the other side of the coin, because there's a lot of things that we don't even realize are so deep rooted because of the years and years of teachings that we've had on misogyny and sexism and patriarchy. It's so deep rooted that sometimes we have to catch ourselves and think, wait, is this right? And is this actually fair? Is this right?
Yeah, definitely. I think as we become more and more progressive as women, men also need to catch up on their thinking as well, because, you know, as women, we are, I think the feminist movement has done so much, and, you know, we have people now who are advocating for women and pushing forward ideas that wouldn't have been pushed forward in the first place. And I think men need to take note of what women are doing and think like, okay, they're being a lot more open now. Maybe we need to catch up as well. Like, not just, okay, they're being more open, that means that, you know, we can do what we want. No, we're progressing. We are taking ourselves for ourselves. You need to realize that just because we put ourselves out there, that doesn't mean that you have the right to take that for what you want, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Can we just go back to Evin's question? I don't think either of you answered.
I'm so sorry, Evin.
I don't know, Evin, if you want to repeat it or if you guys remember.
Was it about where women should go if they feel they need support on these conversations? Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the first thing to do is know that you're not alone, because I think a lot of women will feel, certainly having experienced some of my experiences, I felt like I was alone. I'm the only person experiencing this. But if you are affected by anything we discussed tonight, just know that you're not on your own and that there is help out there. I think the first thing to do is to get some advice and some support. So it doesn't mean if you pick up the phone and you call ICRO or any other charity that you're leaving your husband or your family straight away. So don't worry about taking one step at a time. You can call for advice, you can get some support, and, you know, maybe you just have some questions about some of the things you've heard tonight. And if you need urgent help, then always call the police, but you can call ICRO and just have some questions or anything that you want to go through for some advice or some resources, where to go, you know, who to talk to. We offer different languages as well. So if you don't speak just English, we've got Kurdish, we have Farsi, we have Arabic. We do counselling in several languages as well, and we have a refuge. So do definitely seek out, reach out and seek some support.
Yeah, I agree with Payzee. And also, the first thing also is to know that it is not your fault because you are in this situation. Because most of the time, women blame themselves, and they said because I was kind of like, I asked the question, he hit me. I didn't cook very well, so he got angry. And I didn't done my responsibilities, so he also just started to picking on me. This sort of thing. It is not about yourself. It is not your fault. Whatever and also no one deserves any kind of abuse from others. So I think this is a start. And also, sometimes it's not easy to seek help. And then also there's most of the women doesn't know where to go. But again, if most of the women have their GPs, so they can talk with their GPs. They can share just whatever happened, even very small amount of that. And also, the children goes to school. In the school they've got safeguarding team, so the mother can speak to the children's teachers. So again, it's way to seek help and get help. And also, just there are some communities. They've got in the communities they've got women branches, so they can go to do these branches. But most importantly, if they know any women organization, voluntary women organization, anyone. It doesn't mean that if you are even very far away from the Kurdish women organization, but there are some Pakistani women organization, or there are some Russian women organization. All women organization can find a way to help you, because all women organizations, they are trained, they've got the trained officers who can who can listen to you, who can also, when they listen to you, they can identify your needs, and then they can work with you, not for you, but work with you, because you are the best person to know your problems, because it's your life. And then we can get help from there.
Thank you, Suna. Evin, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so just I wanted to thank Evin for her comments, also Payzee and Suna. I think, yeah, it's as Evin just pointed out, it's really important that I think all of us who can to help to raise the voice of women political prisoners and all women activists across, all 4 parts of Kurdistan, and also in diaspora. As we know, even many women who are in the field of science or other fields, they still struggle with the, patriarchy systems within, even, academic areas and things. They just prevent women's voice or women's successes. So I think it's very important that we all use social media, as Evin said, to be the voice of our women's. And also thank you to Suna and Payzee. I think it's very important that in all our events, we always point out that there are organizations and how our women can seek help. Also, I wanted to, because I think we didn't point out to that, living in, I think, in an abusive relationship also affects children. And I think many women don't realize that by staying in the abusive relationships and bringing up their children, because the society makes them feel like if they leave the husbands, it's not for the good of the children. But what I think most women who stay in these relationships don't realize is that how it affects the mental health of their children and the future of those children. And I think that's also in itself is another subject can be discussed in length.
Yes, exactly. I think we should just wrap up now, as it's been 2 hours, but thank you so much, Payzee, Suna, Evin, for speaking, for all of your questions and comments. If you have any other questions for the speakers, you can either contact them directly or through us via Kurd-Akad UK on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email. So I really hope you enjoyed this. It will be available to watch again on Facebook. And yeah, if you're going through any issues or anything at all, please contact and seek help from the organizations that these women discussed. So yeah, thank you very much.